All right, everyone, we are back. Today is another live stream, my third interview with a fellow hockey player. Today, my special guest is Billy Constantinou. He's a defenseman with the Soo Greyhounds of the Ontario Hockey League. He managed to accumulate 53 points in 60 games, split between the Greyhounds and the Frontenacs. He was selected to the Sherwin-Williams CHL NHL prospect game, and he is also was an invitee to the LA Kings camp. But we will get into all of that. Billy, first of all, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. First of all, how are you? I mean, today's situation is not one we all could have predicted. Everyone's dealing with their own challenges. So, give us a little bit about how you're doing.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Obviously, quarantine lifestyle can get tough at sometimes, but I'm trying to make the best of it. So.
Yeah, and it's important to understand that you can only control what you can, and before all of this, we were all just doing our own thing, working on getting better, and you were well underway to doing so. You were doing really well. So, have you've been okay doing it kind of like this?
Yeah, I've been trying to do my part. Keep my family safe, keep myself safe, and the people around me. So I'm just trying to do my part and have hopefully everything go back to normal sooner than later.
Yeah. But I really want to go back because back when I knew you really well, we were still in minor hockey, and you had an impact on many teams in the GTHL. But you landed your minor midget year with the Toronto Marlboros, and I was so fascinated with that year because you guys were finished tied for third place in regular season standings, and you were only 2 points behind the first place Toronto Nationals. Why do you think your minor midget year was so competitive?
Obviously being minor midget, that's your OHL draft year. Everyone's trying to showcase what they can do and get drafted. So I just felt like everyone kind of had their own little thing to prove on each team, and we all just kind of battle out hard as we could every night.
And that's a great point. I think everyone wants to go to a place where they succeed. So there's a lot of behind the scenes player decisions. A lot went into how each player went to a team. As established AAA players. So the distribution of talent was amazing. Any given night, it felt like, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 teams, that it could go either way. And, that whole year was super competitive. Talk about how you guys did.
Yeah, obviously we did pretty well. We were tied for third in the league. Obviously the top 3 teams being super close with points. So I thought as a team we did well. We didn't make it to the finals that year, and we lost in Game 7, so that was kind of a bummer. But overall, it was a great year as a team.
And it's interesting too because it was like the first year where the Marlboros and the Rebels were actually they didn't finish 1 and 2. You guys finished third. They finished fourth. It was the Nationals and the Reps who were 1 and 2. But both those teams lost in the first round, and then things started to get more predictable from there. But it's crazy that you guys finished third and fourth with players between both teams like Jack Hughes, Tomasino. I mean, while everyone's doing great today, it's crazy to understand how good the GTHL was with these guys.
Yeah, for sure. The GTHL was obviously a really high talent league that year, and every team had players who could play every game. So it was definitely a really tough league that year.
Yeah, and you guys obviously you lost in the finals in what was a really really good series, and then you go to another challenge, which is the OHL Cup, where guys still have to prove themselves, still have to showcase themselves in front of all the scouts. So how was that experience like for you guys?
That's kind of like the second time in the minor midget year you kind of get to play in front of like bigger crowds. So it was obviously kind of scary at sometimes when you're playing in big games like that, but you tend to get used to it. But obviously the OHL Cup is a big deal that year, and everyone kind of wants to get in. And once you get in, you kind of got to prove yourself, and you want to go all the way.
Yeah, and it's crazy how things came back full circle, and it was the 2 wild card teams, the Nationals and the Reps, that end up in the finals. But how do you think you guys did within that tournament?
Obviously it's a pretty tough tournament to play in and especially win. But as a team, I thought we came together pretty well, and obviously it's kind of a bummer we didn't get to go all the way and win. But as a team, I thought at the end of the day, we're all pretty happy with our performance because we all knew we gave our best and we all left it on the ice that year.
Yeah, and it showed with how many guys were drafted. I mean, Hughes went high, Clark went high, you went high. And everyone else found themselves within the draft, and a lot of them are still pursuing hockey and doing well. So, I always love to go back and to these guys' early careers and see how it all comes full circle, because a lot of the guys you were playing against in the GTHL, you get to see sometimes in the OHL as well. So it's really cool how everything was more condensed, and now guys are going to different places and pursuing their careers, in a likewise manner.
For sure.
Yeah. And, that minor midget year, you were part of the GTHL Top Prospects game, the GTHL Finals, OHL Cup, OHL Gold Cup, on top of the regular season schedule. Now, with all the success, there has to come some challenges. Do you feel like with the combination of academics and just being a teenager that you ever found yourself feeling burnt out?
I wouldn't say burnt out. Obviously, at sometimes it gets very stressful and you got a lot on your plate at once. But you kind of just got to learn time management. You got to kind of create a schedule and try to work around things. So at sometimes, yeah, I had a lot on my plate and I was trying to do multiple things at once, but I managed to fix it all and get everything done at the end of the day. So.
Yeah, and that's an important thing to understand. An outsider looking in can be like, how can this guy compete at a high level every night? But there's so much more that goes into it. I mean, nutrition, sleeping schedule, discipline in general. It's all very calculated, and it's really nice to talk to an athlete like yourself to get a sense of, how a strict regimen helps you succeed on a daily basis.
Yeah, like there was some nights like I'd have practice at like 9:00. And I wouldn't get out of school till like 3:30, so I'd have to go to the rink right after school, do homework, try to take a nap, get everything done, go to practice, go home, and get to bed. So it was a pretty hectic schedule, but I managed to get everything done. So.
Well, let's talk about the prospects game, because obviously this is a day that a lot of players had on their calendar throughout the year, and whether you made it or not, it was a day that a lot of guys thought of. So you obviously made the list, but tell me your preparation for that game.
At that time, that was definitely one of the biggest games of my career, and I was looking forward to. Before that, I had a lot of butterflies in my stomach, so obviously it was a big deal, and it was important to me to do well in. But I just tried to get ready for it just like any other game, because at the end of the day, it's kind of what it was. Obviously, having a bigger crowd, you have a bunch of people coming to watch you and pay to see you play. It's a big deal, especially when you're a 16-year-old kid. So you tried to just get all the jitters out before the game, just do what you could do.
Yeah, and there has to be a sense of community that comes with it. I mean, you guys are recognized as the 40 best players within the age group at that time. All the scouts are there to see you and get an assessment leading up to the final date being draft day. So, there has to be a sense of, regardless of what team you were, that this was a really special event for everyone. Would you say so?
Yeah, I would say so, for sure.
Yeah. And, you had that. And then you had the OHL Gold Cup, which is something I think a lot of people dismiss, because this happens after the draft. And it's basically where the best players from all the best players that are eligible for the OHL draft can compete under their area, and then, do it under one roof and still have something to prove. So talk about that experience and what you remember from it.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool experience. The GTHL always has two teams, the blue and the red team. So they kind of picked apart guys from each team and assembled two like super teams, I guess you could say, in a way. So that was a week we spent in Kitchener-Waterloo, and every league who has minor hockey assembles a team with all the top players from each league, and we all go and compete down there. And that year we ended up losing the quarters, I'm pretty sure. And actually the other GTHL team ended up winning that year. So that was a pretty cool experience, being able to play with guys you played against your whole life, guys you played with previously. It was pretty cool playing against guys that you got drafted with, guys who from other leagues that were drafted the same team as you're going to see in a few months at camp. So it was kind of cool getting to see everyone's faces, and it was a fun experience.
Yeah, and I think the obviously the competitive nature will take over, but there has to be some relief that, you're already drafted. You don't have as much to prove leading up to your ranking. So you can just go out there and compete and just show the teams this is why you're here. I think
For
that's
sure.
a really cool part of the year.
Yeah, you kind of get like a weight off your shoulders in a sense where you're thinking about that all year, waiting for that day to come. Then it comes, and hopefully it happened. And for me, it happened, so I was very lucky for that. And then at that point, you kind of just got to prove yourself to the team that picked you that they made the right choice.
Yeah, and kind of you know you're drafted early second round. You're now a member of the Niagara Ice Dogs. You know, and trying to word this, but I'm kind of stuck. Anyways, how would you entered the Ontario Hockey League as a member of that team? And obviously there's many growing pains that come with it, with moving away and this and that. But at the end of the day, you have to adapt to playing against men and playing against 20-year-olds. So what do you think was the biggest adjustment you had to make in your game in order to adapt to the OHL level of play?
Well, first off, moving away from like your family and what you're used to at a young age, it's kind of tough at the start, and it's kind of a big adjustment to get used to, especially when you're moving far away from home. You're living with new family, new school, everything. So the whole lifestyle is a bit different, and that takes a bit to get used to. But on top of that, being a rookie, being the youngest in the league, you can kind of got to get used to the pace of the game, the strength, the size of the other players, because your whole life, when you're playing minor hockey, you're used to playing against guys your own age, and you're never really put in that predicament most of the time to play against guys who are older, and especially 4 years older and stuff like that. So that's definitely a big step as well. And I kind of had to get used to that my first couple of games, the speed of the game, the intensity, and obviously playing against guys who are 4 years older.
Yeah, and that's such a good in-depth analysis of it. That can only come from real experience because there are so many components that go into it. As you mentioned, the billeting. You go from living with parents to living with someone else's parents or whatever the dynamic may be. Big home, small home. You got to find a way to sleep in that bed and go and do your day as you would at home. You got the school component. I mean, people are looking at you. They know you're a member of this hockey team. You got to find a way to balance that. And on top of that, you got to integrate yourself within that dressing room. You're going into I like to say you're thrown in with the wolves. You're with guys who have been through the process. There's certainly a culture that comes with it. You really got to prove yourself. You really have to be tough and strong through it all. And I'm sure that rookie year there were certainly growing pains, and you went through it.
For sure, you definitely got to be strong-willed, especially as a rookie. You're always not in the lineup. And obviously it's mentally makes you stronger because you obviously want to get in that lineup and show what you can do. And then when you're not doing that, you got to show the team, you got to show the coaches you're working hard on the ice in practice, you're working the hardest in the gym. So you always got to constantly be proving yourself at that age.
Yeah, and you just get this. If you're doing it positively with your energy, you get this dog mentality where you might be in the stands one game and you harness that negative energy and you put it towards working hard in the gym, proving yourself in practice, laying the hits in practice, battling, and proving that you should be in the lineup while still remaining a good teammate. And it's hard, I know, for a lot of guys because I've went through it myself. When you feel defeated by the fact that you're not given the opportunity you may feel like you deserve, and you can have a sense of animus towards others because of this. And you've clearly proven yourself, and it's something I try and work on as well as a player. But there's so much you have to take the positives out of being maybe looked down upon, and then proving yourself and integrating yourself. There's some character that comes with it.
Yeah, you definitely got to have a positive outlook on everything. Obviously, if you have a positive mindset, positive things are going to happen. So you got to just kind of keep that mindset in the back of your head and always stay positive, be a happy person around everyone, just always have a smile on your face and just be happy because you're obviously very grateful to be in that predicament. And there's definitely a lot of people who wish they could have the opportunity you could have. So you should always just be grateful for it.
Absolutely. And what were some of the key takeaways from that year? Because you've got all these challenges, So talk about, the molding of the person you were when you entered and the person you were when you left that first year in Niagara.
Yeah, so first year I went in, obviously you're still kind of a little kid. You're moving away from home. You kind of got to mature pretty quick in a sense where you're always used to having your parents kind of around to help you with stuff or things like that. But once you move away from home, like you got to start. Some people, their bills do their laundry for them. Me myself, I was too nervous to ask them for that, so I kind of learned myself. It just kind of you got to grow up a bit earlier in that sense where you got to kind of fiend for yourself in a way. But yeah, after that year, obviously there was a lot of ups and downs, I guess you can say, being in and out of the lineup. But I was happy with it. I learned a lot from it, and I feel like after that season, I matured a bit.
Yeah, and before I go on, it's like you read my mind. I was just gonna say, my first year away, I started doing my own laundry, and started doing my own bed, doing things that I wouldn't do
Yeah,
with mom and dad at home. Shout out to them. So,
yeah, for sure.
um, you become a man, and it's a beautiful thing. But not to take lightly your first year as a defenseman, you still had 3 goals, and I think you had 12 points
Yeah,
that year. So by no means a short feat, and it's certainly productivity that came out. You were certainly starting to build your name after that first year.
for sure. Yeah, I just tried to make the most of my opportunity that year, and whenever I got the chance to prove myself, I kind of had to. So I did the best I could, and I ended up with 12 points, which was pretty good. I was pretty happy with myself.
Now, sometimes what comes with the success in hockey comes fate. And with that comes the reality that your position is never secure, no
Mm.
matter how good you're doing. Because while you may be an asset to the team you're on, another team may see you as a greater asset to them. And then we have what's called the trade. So you were part of a deal to Kingston that saw Niagara receive Jason Robertson. To those who don't know, Jason Robertson is with the Dallas Stars organization now, someone who did very, very well in the OHL and is 2 years older than Billy and I. So by no means any animus towards that, but they received Jason. And then Niagara was obviously making the playoff push with guys like Ben Jones and Nikhil Thomas there. They were certainly going for it. So do you feel as though going to a rebuilding team like Kingston that you had something to prove?
For sure. Especially when you get traded from a team who's making a playoff push, you kind of have that in the back of your head that they're gonna have to give up some assets for later years, give them up for if you're trying to go all the way. So I kind of had the thought in the back of my head that it might happen, and it ended up happening. And especially when you get traded for a guy like Jason Robertson, who's obviously a very high end talent, put up a lot of points, put up 116 points that year. So getting traded for someone like that, you obviously got to have that point to prove, I guess, because a team gave up something that's a pretty important figure in that dressing room and someone who put a lot out on that ice for them. So you kind of have to prove that they didn't make a mistake making that trade.
Yeah, and by no means, while you have the confidence from that trade, it obviously is tough to just go from a strong team like Niagara and even just moving billets in general to a place like Kingston where they're in a rebuild and they need help for years to come. So talk about that transition for sure, because I can imagine it was a huge culture shock.
Yeah, so like when you get traded, it's obviously a pretty tough thing. You make a lot of friends when you move away. You you're used to your billet family, you're used to the school, everything, the dressing room, the locker room, your teammates. So when all that kind of you get traded, everything's kind of the element of the unknown. You don't know what's going to happen. You got to have to move schools, everything like that. So it was pretty tough saying goodbye to a lot of friendships I made in the dressing room and at the school, and especially to my billets. They're still a big part of my life. I still keep in touch with them, but yeah, just the whole atmosphere. It's hard to let go, but you kind of got to keep that positive mindset. And, everything happens for a reason, and you're just hoping for better things to come in the future. So
Yeah, and it's the business of hockey. There no relationships get a get a cut or a bleed in them because of it. You
For
guys are
sure.
you're obviously still close with the guys from Niagara. It's just it's the business, and you get a sense of it, and it's really really good preparation for what's to come in pro, because yeah, you're only as good as other teams see you, and there's so many dynamics. So obviously you're traded to Kingston, and this was your 17-year-old year. So this
Yeah.
was a year where the NHL teams had you on their radar. There's a lot out of your control. What were you trying to, were you still trying to play the same game in Kingston, or were there other elements you were focused on as well?
Obviously playing in Niagara, they're a high skilled team, high end team. Really good that year. I didn't get played as much, so I wasn't really put in certain predicaments that I did get put in Kingston. So I felt like when I went to Kingston, I had a bigger role to play. So definitely, I felt like I had to round out my game a bit more in that sense, where the team kind of depended on me more at certain times, and I had to give more. So going there, I kind of had to grow up a bit, if you know what I mean, like
Oh, absolutely.
for sure. So
Yeah, and part of the going to a rebuilding team where you're seen as an asset comes opportunity.
yeah,
And with that opportunity, and when has you harnessed it, you're going to be able to utilize what you get, and therefore get more exposure, and be seen more in the eyes of the scouts. And it was proven while you were on a team that wasn't doing well. You were selected to the 2019 Sherwin-Williams CHL NHL Top Prospects game, and the result speaks for itself. It was truly a historic game, coming down to the wire at the end. But talk about that experience in Alberta.
yeah. So obviously, in your draft year for the NHL, that's kind of a big moment every kid looks forward to and getting selected to play in. Um, Being lucky myself, I ended up getting selected, and I went to the rink one day, and my coach ended up telling me that he got an email for it, and then they selected me to play in it. So that was a pretty happy day for myself. It was awesome. Never been on a plane before, so I had to fly out to
Wow.
Alberta that at the end of January. So I went to Alberta. It was in Red Deer that year, so it was a great experience playing against top talent from all over the CHL. You get to play with guys from the Western League, the Quebec League, all over. You make a lot of new friends, and obviously, it's a high-paced game. There's a lot of talent there, so it was definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah, and that's such a great point that a lot of people don't understand, that the OHL is actually part of something bigger. The Canadian Hockey League involves the Ontario Hockey League, the QMJ, the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, and the Western Hockey League. So there's 60 teams in Major Junior, and you were chosen as one of the 17-year-olds that was seen to have some sort of draft potential and NHL potential with that. So talk about there was obviously the physical testing. So what did that entail?
So the physical testing, it was kind of your standard like off ice testing, long jump, broad jump. They just kind of it was just to get scores of everyone in the game to see where everyone was kind of at with their physicality and their kind of like off ice strength and whatnot and their athleticism, I guess you can say. And then we had on ice testing as well, which was just skating drills, speed drills, timed stuff like that. So even though it was testing, you wanted to do your best. It was still a fun experience, and it was fun because you had guys around you and you're all wanting to do well at the same time. So it was definitely competitive, but it was also super fun at the same time.
And it's so important to mention, because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. The banter and the community that comes with it is really a coping mechanism because of how stressful and how much pressure that comes with it. I mean, I can imagine this was a similar experience to the top 40 prospects game, where it's one game, there's a crowd, the eyes are watching, and you're supposed to perform under the lights. So tell me a little bit that day, that game day, how you eased into it from morning to the day the whistle blew and it was over.
Yeah, so I just tried to keep it the same as any other game. Obviously, it was an important game to me, and obviously everyone else playing in that game as well. So obviously we had morning skate during the day. Just try to let all the butterflies out. Try to get loose before the game. Try to have a good meal. Took a nap before. just the usual game day preparation. And it was just kind of, you got to just perform. So you kind of, at the end of the day, it's just another game. You just got to look at it that way, and you just got to stay relaxed and just do what you can do.
Yeah, I mean, and it is just a game. If you play sewer ball throughout the season, I'm sure the guys were playing sewer ball for that game because
For sure.
it comes second nature, the game, and you've got good players around you as well. So, when the puck dropped, what were your feelings on the bench?
Just trying to stay positive, trying to be energetic, I guess you can say. Just trying to go hard every shift. Cheer on the guys on the ice when I was on the bench. When I was on the ice, I made sure to my best to make the right play, not to make any mistakes, stuff like that. Be aggressive, stay on the right side of the puck, show flashes of skill when I could, when I had the opportunity. So I just tried to play my game, and at the end of the day, I thought I had a pretty good game overall, and I was pretty happy with my performance.
Yeah, and the game itself ended 5-4. I
Yeah.
believe it was McMichael who scored that goal at the end. You happened to be on the team that did not win, but I can imagine. Like I know, you were on a team with Kaliev, Robertson. Um, who else? Were you on the team
Uh,
with those guys?
I was on Team Cherry, so I was on the team. Kaliev, Robertson, Cousins, Byram, Harley, a bunch of big names. So my D partner was Byram, so we were on the same D pairing. But obviously it was a bummer not being able to win that game. But at the end of the day, everyone still had fun, and obviously it was a great experience for all of us. And that's definitely something that every player at that game will remember for the rest of their life and cherish that moment.
Yeah, that's incredible. You can hear about it, but then you hear the names as well, and it's got to be an incredible experience. But with this game came the exposure, and you get to draft day, and I know you weren't selected, but it really wasn't the end of the world because the LA Kings staff, they came to you, they said they want you at their camp, so you were an invitee there, and then you came back for their rookie camp. So that's obviously great. So
Yeah.
what do you think was the biggest takeaway from that experience?
Obviously, you look forward to that day your whole life, and sometimes things happen and it doesn't go the way you want it to. You just gotta stay positive. You gotta think that everything happens for a reason. I truly believe that. So, I just tried to take the positives out of it. Obviously, I'm grateful for the opportunity that the LA Canes gave me for going to development camp right after the draft, and then getting invited back in August and September. So that was obviously a great experience going back to rookie camp, being able to play against guys who were drafted, guys who play in the AHL, skating with guys like Drew Doughty, Anze Kopitar, people like that. It was definitely a great experience.
Yeah, and it's important to understand for people who um, who really are on the outside looking in that you were on every team's radar. Whatever
Mm.
perception there was on the rawness of your game or things like that, you had the skill to be a top draft pick. Regardless of it, we just saw the video. You had a huge impact in that camp, and I read Sean O'Donnell and Mike O'Connell, I believe their
Yep,
names are. They're part of the development staff. They had exceptional things to say about you, and there was an article on you. So you've certainly integrated yourself within their system, kind of. I think.
for
I can
sure.
imagine you're still on their radar. Do you still talk to them by any means?
Yeah, like early last year, like I would see guys from the development staff at games. I would talk to them after games, so we kept in touch a bit. Obviously with COVID and everything right now, everything's been kind of quiet, and then they were all probably working on getting the NHL started back up, which they did. So it's always nice to have some hockey to watch now. But yeah, so everything's going smoothly right now. Just waiting for our season to start up now.
Yes, and with these camps, and they're pretty predictable. You've got the training regimen, you've got the skills skating, you've got the training. But what were some of the fun things you guys got to do as well?
Oh yeah, there's a bunch of fun things. Obviously, going to California, I've never been before, so that was obviously a super awesome experience. Being in a new place. the weather's amazing. So in development camp when I first got there, we were there for about a week, and the one day after practice, one day they all the coaches brought us to the beach. We all rented out bikes. We went down for a bike ride on the path. So it was pretty awesome. Just going out to dinner with some of the guys I was at camp with, going for sushi, just stuff like that. It was just super fun. And obviously going to the Staples Center, obviously seeing that atmosphere and imagining seeing all those fans watching you. It's a pretty great experience.
Yeah, and obviously it's a professional one, but it's really important to highlight the fun you have. And it came back full circle. I know you're friends with Akil Thomas. He's a draft pick there. I'm sure you guys had a great time. So
For sure. Yeah, it was definitely tons of fun.
yeah, and motivates you, I'm sure, to keep working to get that taste again.
For sure.
And it will come. There's a lot out of our control right now, but from what I've seen, and obviously what I just know about you, Billy, good things can happen. So, but I think on the bigger picture, as we look in all of this, I think it's imperative to recognize how the role of the modern defenseman has changed to include more of an offensive contribution. And you certainly fit the criteria, and your production in the Ontario Hockey League is a testament to that. So why do you think, because you were traded again from the Kingston Frontenacs to a better team like the Soo Greyhounds, why do you think you had no problem translating your success to the Soo Greyhounds?
I just felt like the style of game that the Greyhounds played kind of worked towards my advantage, I guess you can say. Obviously, they're a high paced team, a lot of skill. They're fast paced team to play against, so I felt like it was kind of more my style, and I felt like I adjusted better, and I was more comfortable, and I felt like my old self in a sense, I guess you can say.
Oh
Obviously,
yeah.
being on like a losing team, it's always not the easiest thing, but you always try to stay positive. But when I went to the Sioux, I just felt like I kind of had a weight lifted off my shoulders in a sense. There wasn't as much like stress on me in a way. Obviously, I still wanted to perform every night, and I obviously did my best. But I felt like I just was more comfortable in the sense that I felt like I could do more things. I had more confidence when I started playing with the Greyhounds.
Yeah, and just to give some nuance, I mean, Greyhounds had Yarmir Pitlick, who we just watched in the World Juniors. Robert Kalisti is a good player. Dickinson was drafted. Cairns was drafted. And I also had the pleasure of being where I am now, training with Zachary Trott.
Yeah.
Zach Trott's a good leader on that team and good player. So yeah, I mean, you guys had a strong group. Talk about the dressing room environment as well, because with success comes another variable behind the scenes.
For sure. I love all the guys on the team. We all got along really well. It was a lot of fun. Being in the Sioux, I'm 9 hours away from home, so there's not much to do out there other than play hockey and do schoolwork. So the guys kind of have a really nice bond there. Everyone got along really well. There's not really many distractions out there, so I could really focus on hockey. And that was probably another reason why I thought I did so well out there, was because I could focus on hockey more. There wasn't really that background noise of stuff going on around you. It's a small town. Yeah, it was great.
And that's such a great point, because when you get to this level of professionalism and really taking your craft seriously, you don't want the distractions. I know a lot of people think it's cool. You got this, you got cloud, whatever it is. You don't want that. You want to go there and you want to keep proving yourself, keep focusing on your craft, and just keep achieving greatness. So that's a great point. The distractions, there's something special about living in a small town where you're there for a purpose, and it's to win hockey games. So I know the Sioux has a great fan following. Talk about that, because home games look really cool.
Yeah, the Sioux has a really great fan base down there. There's a lot of hardcore fans, and they eat, sleep, and breathe hockey down there. So um, they look forward to it every year, and they follow the team super close. If we're not at home and there's no broadcast on, they're listening to it on the radio. They're watching away games. It's just sometimes we have buses go on away games, so it's it's a pretty cool atmosphere having people behind you supporting you like that.
Yeah, and that's the Ontario Hockey League. That's Major Junior. You win games, the community comes together, and it's a beautiful thing. But how did you guys finish in that year? Because I know things had to shut down. But what were you guys looking like in the standings?
So obviously I played in the Eastern Division with Kingston. Going to the West had a pretty strong conference that year. Every team was pretty tight. Like we were like 2 points out of a playoff spot with 5 games left. We were right behind Erie, and
Mm,
then behind us was Sarnia, and they were about 5 points back. And then in front of Erie, the next team I think was Owen Sound. They were 2 more points ahead, so it was a super tight stretch there. And those 5 games, we definitely had a lot to prove, and we had to definitely win those games. And then sadly, we all got sent home due to COVID. So it was kind of a bummer not being able to finish that year.
yeah, and everyone can speak on that. I mean, we're seeing the effects right now. We can't just pursue our passion. It's on lockdown, so that's why we try to be there for each other and talk about these things. But you, Billy, you come from such a great hockey family, and I'm fortunate enough to know your dad. And it's also like your sister. She played for McGill University.
Yeah.
So talk about the dynamic and how great it is to have a sibling on a similar path.
It's always nice. Her being 5 years older, kind of gave me something to like strive for and look up to better myself. Um, so it was always nice to see her do well and going to watch her play and seeing how she would do. Her playing on a bigger platform, I guess you can say, than I was at the time. Me being in minor hockey and her playing university hockey, obviously it's a higher level. So it was nice going to watch her play and see the atmosphere and stuff like that. So it was nice having a sister and a sibling who kind of took the same path as me in a way.
Yeah, and I was fortunate to meet her. Such a great example, and you know, uh, um, really one because the combination of academics and pursuing your education in hockey as well is such a great example to follow. So,
For sure.
myself, I have a younger sister, and I look up to her academically and try to model myself after her. So, family is so important in this journey, and just having each other's backs.
For sure, I agree.
Yeah, but that's the beauty of it all. But now we're here these days, and do you have any interest? What have you been watching? What have you been up to?
Lately I've just been, well, thankfully hockey came back yesterday, so pretty happy about that. I watched a couple games last night. Other than that, I've been trying to stay healthy, stay active, eating right, working on my game as much as I can. Um, the Soo, we still have Zoom calls every week, so it's nice to see the guys' faces and talk to them a bit for about an hour a day. So I've just been staying in touch with people. Hopefully everything goes back to normal sooner than later and we can have a season and eventually get back on the ice, which I've been looking forward to.
Now, before we get lost in translation, you talk about hockey being back. Let me tell you a funny story yesterday. So Leafs are down 3-1 to Montreal. And I'm a fan of the Leafs and a loyal one at that because even when they lose, I see the positive out of it.
Yeah.
So my dad, who's sitting on the couch, he's obviously talking a little bit in a way I don't like, and he's kind of slandering them a bit. And they were down 3-1. So my mom, she's on her betting website, and I'm like, and I noticed this, but I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean, Dad? It's there's a period and a half left. Why are you talking like this? And he's like, oh, they're bust, this and that. He's talking like he doesn't know what he's talking about. So I'm like, Mom, $10 on Leafs. And she's like, what do you mean? This is my account. I'm like, listen, I want to get into this. Put $10 on the Leafs. All right. So low risk because it's $10, but whatever. We know the result of that. Leafs came back and won. They thought I was a madman. They thought I was crazy. Sometimes you got to take a risk because your heart's in the right place. So made $36 on the Leafs.
Well,
Sue me. Um, and then I see Vancouver playing Edmonton. I don't live under a rock. Vancouver's on the come up. $10 on Vancouver. So probably made $50 on sports gambling. I do not encourage gambling. I think it's a terrible thing. But if you want to gamble, gamble. I think it's a great thing and it's a lot of fun. Any take on that story?
Yeah, like obviously I'm a Leafs fan as well. I've been one since I was born. As long as I can remember, I've always watched the Leafs. But I actually have a couple Leafs on my fantasy team with a couple of my buddies, so I was definitely cheering them on. And I also had Carey Price too, which was in net, so it was kind of balanced a bit. I didn't know who to cheer for at certain times, so I wanted them to both do well. So, but yeah,
Yeah, that can be the conflicting matter. And there's no such thing as betting on a team because it's rational, but wanting the other team to win because, you know, it's just so conflicting and then you don't enjoy it because either way
yeah,
you're a loser. You got to go all in on a bet. You bet on the team you want to win and you bet. So good on Toronto. Good on the boys. Always believed in them. Should have bet on VC scoring. For some reason, I had a feeling he'd score, but it would just seem
mm,
like, why am I betting on one guy? I don't know what he ate before the game or how he feels. So, really good result. I like Toronto's team. I liked how Matthews tenacity. Price played well. I like his new
he
mask.
did.
He got a new mask.
I noticed that too. Yeah, I was looking at it during the game. It was pretty cool. I like the idea of it.
Yeah, yeah, and he's just an animal. By no means has digressed. Anyway, I think Montreal's a strong team. This all Canada division is going to be really, really interesting,
For sure.
and we're going to see a new side of hockey. So that's kind of cool.
No, I agree. It's really nice to look forward to having hockey on almost every day. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, and did you follow any other sports?
I follow a bit of basketball, some football, not as much as hockey, obviously, but I'm still into it.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
are you like Morgan? Are you a Cleveland Browns guy?
I'm actually a Raiders fan.
Okay, Oakland
Yeah,
Raiders. Yeah. Oh well,
yeah,
yeah.
Las
There's a
Vegas
connection.
now, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I've always been kind of a fan of them because my dad was. So I kind of was born into it, I guess you can say. But they're not in the playoffs this year, so I guess I'm rooting for Buffalo because that's my
Yeah,
grandpa's
and
favorite team.
I'm trying to get more a bit into pop culture. I know football. Football's not something I've ever gotten into, but when the Super Bowl's on, my mom watches for the commercials, but I always give the game the benefit of the doubt. I actually would watch the Super Bowl, and
Yeah,
it's I can see why people get behind it. It's sport brings us together whatever sport you may play, and it's pretty cool. I love the idea of the Super Bowl. It's sick to put it,
for sure.
which people can understand. But yeah, so obviously, what we got out, lots of more sports gambling to come. I don't condone gambling, but it's something you should do. Don't gamble, but if you want to gamble, so that's that's that. But anything else you got in your mind? Anything else?
Not much other than just no, not really. No,
Well, Billy, then I think that covers it. I thank you so much for coming on my show today. It was so nice to learn from you and just to catch up. I hope to keep in contact soon, and all the best to you and your family.
for sure. You as well. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Guys, that was my interview with Billy Constantinou, a great kid and a great story. Through the islets, we're growing a little bit, and that's because of your support. So if you like this and want more content, please hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more details. I'm Matthew Varnovitsky, and this is Through the Islets.